Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemanly ladies, my LGBTQ family, it's happening. Today it is October 2nd, Tuesday. It is 7:34 Eastern Standard Time. We will be having a cup of coffee, so come have your cup of coffee with Dragon, and we will be discussing what's in the news and other very important topics. Pour yourself a cup, half a cup, a whole mug. Let's roll. This is an unedited, unscripted, raw, real, revolutionary cup of coffee. Gonna be drinking some Colombian. This coffee is very good. Supposedly it comes from the mountains, higher plains, so it has a very potent taste, fresh taste. Not sponsored by any coffee corporation, company, or farm, so not gonna name names, no snitching over here. But let's just enjoy a cup while discussing some issues. Do take suggestions for topics, so feel free in the comment or contact me, if you will, via YouTube, social media, online, the World Wide Web, the internet. Question: what is the internet? I'm sure that if you ask a millennial, that is myself also as a millennial will have a very different answer from other generations, and even within millennials there would be so many different answers. Although, of course, if anybody knows a little bit about computers, computer networks, of course it would have to be something that would make sense. Myself am still learning at this present moment in time, although I'm a great admirer of Bill Gates and, of course, Steve Jobs, and of course Tim Berners-Lee. Tim Berners-Lee is less of a popular figure. Bill Gates and, of course, Steve Jobs with Apple, from Apple, co-founder Steve Wozniak of Apple. Of course, Bill Gates are more figures that are more well known than Tim Berners-Lee, but Tim Berners-Lee is actually credited with being the inventor of hypertext, what's called hypertext, and thus the sort of inventor, creator of the World Wide Web as it was at the beginning, that spawned the internet, although in theory and in some practice it was before, right, in the 70s ARPANET and 60s, and some going way back forth to the 50s and 40s and even 30s, with one less known figure in cybernetics is a Romanian by the name of Stefano Dobleja, and he wrote a paper in cybernetics called How We May Think, and so he's among inner circles, more students of computer science and the internet and telecommunication technology. Stefano Dobleja is a known figure. Technology, the internet, and the World Wide Web is not really the topic at hand, but since I've seen a documentary that came out in the 27th of September, I believe, so not even a week ago, on from CBC, about security, and it CBC, that is from this Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and it showed how, of course, tech-savvy individuals can actually hack into the computer systems, what's known, of course, as the Internet of Things, into the actual video cameras of several individuals in Ontario, family. So they installed security cameras outside and inside the house, right? And it was connected. They were connected to the webcam and they didn't give exactly all the details and what have you, but nonetheless they were connected to the internet. That's to a computer system, to worldwide computer systems, right? It can be very complex. And with the IP address, of course, every IP stands, of course, for Internet Protocol. Correct me if I'm wrong. Each individual computer or server or point of connection, if you will, to the internet has a IP, what's called an IP address, right? Usually made of several numbers, 11, 13. And so there are actually somebody who had hacked into the security cameras that he has installed. Of course, he was not too savvy, and he was able to. There was somewhere online where people could watch without the person knowing, and he was posted on the internet online, and he was watching the family, the person there, through his webcams, like 3 or 4 webcams, right, were connected to the net. And of course the reporter went, this is a recent documentary, that's why I just made an introduction about computer science and fresh in mind, and want to know people's opinions on security, cybernetics, and what have you, and believe that this is an interesting possibility of this happening. In this case, it's rather extreme, of course, without the person knowing. He put paradoxically, you call it a paradox, right? Because he had installed security cameras for his own security and, in a way, privacy, right? Security. But somebody savvy enough had hacked into the cameras, since the cameras were connected to the Wi-Fi or what have you, to his computer. Exact details were not discussed in depth exactly, with details, but without him knowing, somebody hacked and he was streaming what the cameras were recording, and of course what the cameras were showing him, somebody else also in the world was able to see it with an internet connection. Right. So high technology. Anyways, just a topic. Myself, I'm of course I'm an internationalist and universalist. Do not like to label myself, but I'm pretty much a liberal. I don't like labels too much, but probably would be a liberal with, of course, socialist. Liberal socialist. Of course, I have my own theories about liberal democracies and its reform in the technological era and in the era of today, but am also in strong favor of course, universalism, global governance, amongst others, of course, issues. Anyways, I'm not going to that because that's another few cups of coffee, maybe a whole package. But I have, of course, my own social, financial, and economic, political, and spiritual, as a spiritual teacher, my own theories and propositions for local, national, international reform. Right now, sipping coffee, struggling financially, but my workouts are going good. You're more than welcome to join me live streaming via Facebook. I'm conducting the workouts, and so you'll be able to work out with me if you sort of want. Trade. New trade deal. Midnight was the deadline on Sunday. We reached a deal, and I say we as a world LGBTQ citizen from Canada, as a Canadian, North American, that we reached a deal. And a new deal with, of course, a name change called the NAFTA is now a new deal, of course, based on many of the premises and original principles and arrangements of NAFTA. Now it has become the US, Mexico, Canada trade deal. To me, it reflects on a philosophy, a changing of philosophies and political philosophy on the part of course, the Trump administration, charging for the economic nationalism, the patriotism of the United States, is a nationalism. And my own analysis of the name change is, of course, a dissociation, a political, this economic also in many ways, but political mostly, disassociation from an adherence of consciousness and also of political, bent to see North America as a continent and as an integrated region. Right, because when we say North America, free trade agreement, we know, of course, North American Canadians were North Americans, United States citizens are North Americans, Mexicans are North Americans. We have a supranational, it's called in politics supranationalism, like the European Unions did with their economic union, and of course they're moving, and they have been moving slowly also towards a political integration. There's a common passport, right, and they're working on a common foreign policy and what have you. So this is the name change. It shows you a political change, right, playing on more economic nationalism and unilateralism, although signing commercial, trade, and financial deals. It's lacking in the more philosophical, social impulse of integration, of further integration, not just politically, but socially, and of course, politically and security-wise, and culturally as well. I mean, in North America, you know, mostly culturally, you could say, you know, cultural, there's a common North American culture for sure. You can make easy, there is absolutely. So again, for me, the name change just shows a sort of disassociation or marginalization of a more supranational philosophy and politics, to see us Canadians, Americans, and Mexicans as part of the North American region and whole and continent, as moving towards a more political, social, and not just economic and trade and financial integration, but also social, cultural, and political. And of course, by calling it the US, Mexico, and Canada agreement, you get the more of a separation, of the nations within North America, rather than as a unified North American Union, for which I'm in favor of, socially, politically, economically, culturally. Now the trade deal. I'm looking forward. It's only Tuesday. Have not read but minor reports on it. Listened to news from the Financial Times, CNN, and of course Canadian CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Yes, by the way, that is a Mexican flag indeed. It's just that it's not that visible because of the dragon flag, but it's indeed, when I go there and I'm sitting there, it's visible. It's a Mexican flag, because my room is of course a bit dented there, but it's in fact a flag of Mexico indeed. So so on the trade deal, what we know that there were some changes, and there's still a lot to be explained more in details this coming days, maybe the next 72 hours, let's say by Friday, by coming weekend. I'm gonna try to read the document, maybe do a 37 minute just reading of the NAFTA document, try to find it, and we'll post it on another cup of coffee, coffee with Dragon session. The other topic of interest and of course importance is the Quebec election. My province of Quebec, here in Montreal, Hawk Island, there has been an election, and a historical election, a surprising turn of events, very interesting. And of course in politics sometimes we get those surprises. A more right-wing government called the CAC, or the Coalition for the, in English it's Coalition for Quebec Future, so it's like CQF, but in French it's Coalition Avenir Québec, because it's a French province, right? The only French-speaking kind of a province. It's like a state in North America that's officially French as a language. Pretty much bilingual in Montreal here, and special turn of events in. I've not voted myself for the CAC. I voted. Trying to see what I voted for. But did go to vote. Supposedly my generation, the millennials, was again another very low turnout, even below 40%. I think it was 37% of millennial turnout voting. Very bad. So the actual percentage of people who went to vote again, it's a question that I've discussed, whether we should incentivize voting and how we should teach it and see it just as a right, we go vote, or that it's an actual obligation. To me, it's could be a little of each, not necessarily one or the other, and not necessarily not, or being antagonistic, a right with an obligation or a duty. In this case, to go vote, should it be, of course in Quebec, people who work have to go, have to be allotted a few hours, so usually it's a 4-hour shift, have to be allotted at least 4 hours during the duration of the vote. So it's if polls, from 8 to 8 or 9 to 8, so a person, if he's scheduled to work, he has to be given 4 hours break, or has to be finished before work so that he can go vote. So 4 hours, so mandated by law. And as I've seen when I went to the bank to get rent money just yesterday, the RBC, Royal Bank of Canada, the one that I do business with, that my dealings, my partner with, at 3 o'clock, said they put a sticker and it said, "We are closed as of 3 o'clock on Monday, 3 p.m. 3 p.m. they close their doors." because of the voting. First they thought it was a financial panic. I said, oh, bank run, what's happening? Financial panic, banks closed, fight it. No, it's the voting. 3 o'clock they closed. But some people, of course, do speculate that we are heading towards more tough financial times ahead because of not just because of debt, but an economic inequality, but a lot of debt, corporate and private and public. And some people say that the tariffs that have been incrementally imposed by Trump, and of course in reciprocity, of course, by Canada on US products, 16.1 billion, but the ones on China are going to affect a lot of it. And then there's not a lot of job creation, and that there's not a lot of innovating job creation, and that there's not a lot of financing. And this, of course, some of the big theories of finance people, for example, volunteer finance, or workout finance, social financing of society, and of not just work for work's sake. Anyways, that's another cup of coffee and another theories, of course, that can have a practical application. Myself personally cannot finance at the moment any such endeavor. Would finance, and in a way I'm financing it by doing practice, by offering free donations accepted workout classes online on Facebook. But pardon me, but would finance people to work out, to go to the gym. And that's part of one of my World Citizens Gym is the vision is to finance people to actually work out. So it'd be like if you go to work on a treadmill for an hour, you get $15. Stay 2 hours, you get $30. Yo, I'm doing a video. Say. Cafe 92 was vandalized?
Yes.
Who?
We don't know. Somebody called, they went to check. We got broken the window, and the police said there was a people with a cardboard.
Oh.
And it was okay, they went, and when they left, the police returned under the window.
You're for real? Where'd you read that? Oh. Wow. That's unfortunate. They were a small business and all. Well, yeah. It's not like... Alright. Yeah. Well, it hasn't been long ago that the gentleman got shot by the police also. Yeah. That was a good friend, sister, and oftentimes teacher, letting me know that something happened just at a cafe here close by, which I went before. Supposedly got vandalized. So bad news, small businesses getting attacked. It's not like it's see. Who knows? People are going through a lot these days. Who knows what's going to happen? Yeah. So back to the subject, which was the election, surprising election that I guess the analysts say it's a right-wing party, but it's, from my understanding and my readings, and analyzing the speech of the leader of the party who won a majority. And it's important to note that they won a majority government. Usually it's minority mostly, but they won a majority, and big time by a few seats. One, I believe it was 72 seats, which is quite something for a party, a new party. This party had never been in power before, neither in a minority government or a majority government. Liberals, of course, losing big time. But it's, from what I know, it's mostly it's a pragmatic party. It's not really ideologically based, but to many it's still a mystery. Of course, their platform was not without controversy. From my understanding, one of the main points was a reduction of immigration, among other points. And so we will see what is to follow in Quebec politics. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's use this beautiful, wondrous, scientific, technological magic and check out some news, what's in the news now. Huffington Post, of course, reports. This is a Canadian-based news outlet, also a newspaper. We survived Trump's intimidation, but let's not call it a win for Canada. And it's important to note that in the new trade agreement, now renamed, as I've told you prior to my analysis of the renaming of it, that Trump, of course, has imposed tariffs on Canada a few months ago, which Canada has responded as well in countervailing tariffs, counter tariffs. But really, Canada has been put in an unprecedented situation, at least in the modern era, you know, from 1984 until now, even before, right? There's never been a situation like this just in recent history, maybe not in the 20th, or certainly not in the 21st century, for economic tariffs such as Trump has initiated on Canada. And so it was really something that was quite alarming, very very bad for business, as I've said it before. Very un-North American like. CBC, of course, reports Quebec Liberals search for answers after historic defeat. Definitely. And let's go with that article, since it is definitely a historic defeat for the Liberals. And the Parti Québécois went down tremendously in points. Quebec Liberals search for answers after historic defeat. Quebec's Liberal leader Philippe Couillard is home doing some soul searching for the next few days, as his party begins doing the same thing, figuring out what led to such a resounding defeat Monday. And certainly was yesterday. Casting my vote around what it was 6:06 maybe. Not sure what time, around 6:06. So just 2 hours about before closing of the polls, which closed at 8 o'clock. Before the election, really, people were not predicting a victory for the CAQ, really. They're predicting a minority liberal government in a coalition government, but not a majority. Definitely not a majority government. That was not on the many people's lips, anyways. Maybe a few here and there, but it was in many ways just like of course, do not support Trump's policies whatsoever and are very bad, and playing the nationalist card is not my 21st century as a LGBTQ world citizen. So I'm not cool with his policies. But in many ways, it was a win. Like, of course, it's a bit different, but meaning in the unexpected factor, right? Where people would vote, and analysts and specialists say that the people are going to vote, and when they go to vote, they vote. And I doubt I was just voting because just voted because they were better looking or something like that, right? At the candidates. And so Quebec Liberals are searching for answers after a historically poor result in Monday's election that saw them lose with the lowest share of the popular vote in the party's history. The Quebec Liberal Party was hit harder than polls predicted, clinging to Montreal ridings but not much else, while the 7-year-old Coalition Avenir Québec took most of the rest of the province, because we have provinces in Canada in 3 territories. Kind of like a state, more confederation, meaning it's more, our system is in many ways more loosely based. There's not that much centralization of power, in other words, as a federation. Although in certain cases it acts more on a federal basis. It's still called the federal government nowadays. The founding of Canada, of course, was Confederation of Canada, 1867, July 1st. The Quebec Liberal Party was hit harder than polls predicted, and this is important because the polls really did not predict this. Clinging to Montreal ridings, which, of course, living Montreal, which is the second biggest city by population in Canada after Toronto, and is among the top. I think it's top 30 in North America and top 15 in the world. I believe it's 19th in North America, so even top 20 most populated cities in North America as well. To double check, I know it's the second in Canada. Its population is always changing and fluctuating. So it's only a 7-year-old party. Now Liberal leader Philippe Couillard is taking a few days that is, to decide whether he will stay on as a leader, as his party tries to figure out what went wrong and how to move forward as the official opposition to a majority government that capitalized on the electorate's desire for change. Desire for change, yeah. Interesting. Myself have a desire for change. So I'm doing this coffee here. Just looking at my finances, preparing a financial book statement. Prepared a new budget, sort of. You know, I've made a budget and an assessment, and I'm living in a financially precarious situation. As a multidisciplinary artist, poet, songwriting, I'm looking to start making a living out of my creative endeavors. Also applied for different positions of jobs and waiting for an answer. And other business, financial, and commercial activities that could help me, aid me, and bring about my recovery from financially. I am about $360 in the minus at the bank, or will be after I'm gonna pay interest on the credit. Got about $10,000 in debt, paying interest, as you all know, as many know. If you have a few credit cards, it's bad. If you have a lot to pay, it can be extraneous if no additional income comes into your on your balance sheet. And so, sure, I have a desire for change, but I've not voted CAC, that's for sure. But I'm thinking, what have I been motivated to say? Well, maybe there's going to be more jobs created, more opportunity for artists, aspiring social entrepreneurs as myself, with a business plan. But will that help? CAC, will be more financing, more investment for small business. Would it? Maybe somebody in my exact situation was motivated, a millennial. Maybe he was motivated to vote for CAC. See, man, you know, it's like me, unemployed right now, on social assistance, on welfare. You know, minus $360 at the bank. Well, that's okay, because pay a fee, annual fee, in order to be protected per month, so can go under and pay, and do not pay extra fees for going up to minus $500, of course. Protection is called, and overdraft protections, and protection, overdraft protection, and do recommend it to anybody. It's, for me, it's like $37.42 a year, so it only comes to about $3.37, $3.58, something like that, maybe $4.18 per month to be protected, the overdraft. Because if not, a lot of people do pay fees, right? You go under by just $5 and you gotta pay 42, and if that happens every month, at the end of the year, friend, it's can be close to $600, 666 maybe, depending on the bank and the financial institution, right? Some people go under often, at least maybe once a month, and they don't have that protection, and they pay fees until they make the money for that, the banks. So, who knows, right? Don't have a lot of debt, really. A lot of people have a lot of debt in there. I pay $10,000. I wish to start paying it. I've just begun a new budget. We'll probably make some report of it, how I'm gonna budget my expenditures, gotta cut my costs. You know, although I'm in the minus, this and that. Bank, I'm expected for a friend to return a loan of what, $93, so that should get me the groceries. Have a bus pass. I went under because I had to pay rent, 300 something dollars, right? 66. And then bus pass, so I'm expecting some money off of that, transport. Well, I'm not working, well, I'm unemployed, so my budget is till next month, November 1st, get $698 for welfare. What can you do with that? Struggling financially. But that doesn't stop you from learning, from working out, and from budgeting, such as I've begun doing. Budgeting, trying to cut down the cost. Because the main goal is to recover, heal, and be strengthened financially, and of course spiritually and physically. We gotta start with the budget, and of course is to, very simple, budget, balance the books, pay off the debt in order to not pay interest, pay off the debt in order to not pay interest, pay off the debt in order to not pay interest, right? And then with that, the additional whatever income comes to put it into that, so you don't pay interest. And on your daily living expenses, coffee you used to buy, to reduce the cost by looking for the flyers, what's on special, right? by limiting, by imposing an austere budget, which I'm doing, right? To try to get the best deal on the groceries. Save $1 there, save $1 there, $1 on the milk there, $1 on the milk there. For example, today I was gonna go, I went to buy milk. It was not a big special, only 50 cents off. Usually it's $3.99, so from $4.99 this one was $4.49. So maybe I'll find it somewhere else. I'll say 50 cents there, $1 there, $3 there. For a week that's $5, that's $20 a month. It adds up. Savings when you spend where you spend. I'm not gonna buy things I don't need. For the winter, the clothes I have almost from second hand, so to last me through the month. And I'm not gonna count the pennies, the penny jar I have here. I have a penny jar. See? Penny jar. You can work out with it. You can work out with it like I'm just kidding. I have another penny jar. See? With this you can really work out. It says Canadian Citizens Finance. With this you could actually work out. This is a few pounds. This is at least 7.5, 8, if not 12, 13 pounds this. So with that maybe you can push it a bit. Anyways. Help support it any way you can. Coffee with Dragon. Blessings of healing, recovering, and strengthening to all my friends, allies, and supporters. Blessings of recovery, healing, and strengthening financially, spiritually, and physically to all my friends, allies, and supporters. Blessings of recovery, healing, and strengthening financially, spiritually, and physically to all my friends, allies, and supporters.